Hello, hello, hello. Good morning this Monday morning. You see the thumbnail and you see the moniker and the picture. You see all of that good stuff. Please welcome to the channel. This is TPP. And I appreciate your like of the video. If you have time to hit the like button and to subscribe and share. So, why so many Black Americans think Karmelo Anthony should have walked? So, this is not another video arguing whether Karmelo Anthony was guilty or he was innocent. The jury has already answered that question. He's already answered that question. So, 12 people sat in that jury room and heard the evidence, and they listened to the testimony. They received the judge's instructions and reached a verdict. What interests me is something else. Why did so many Black Americans believe, or why do they believe Karmelo Anthony should walk? Or at the very least, why do so many people feel like the 35 years was simply too much? I've seen people on social media dismiss that reaction by saying Black people just support criminals. I've seen people say they don't care about Austin Metcalf. And I've seen people say they ignored the facts because the defendant was Black. I don't believe any of those explanations are true. I don't think many people celebrate what happened. I don't think they think Austin Metcalf deserved to die. I don't think they're blind to the evidence either. I think many Black Americans looked at this case through a completely different lens, and whether you agree with that lens or not, I think it's important for you to understand it. Now, before I go any further, let me say this. Black people are not a monolith. Everybody doesn't think the same way. There are plenty of Black Americans who believe the jury got it right. There are others who think Karmelo Anthony should have been convicted but given a much lighter sentence. And there are some who believe he should have been acquitted entirely. Today, I'm not trying to speak for every Black person, so let's get that straight. I'm trying to explain the arguments that I've heard over and over again this whole weekend since that verdict came out the way that it did. And after listening to those conversations, I think there's 6 major reasons why so many people believe Karmelo Anthony should have walked, or at least should not have received a 35-year sentence. And the first one is they don't see a calculated, cold-blooded murderer. They don't see him as a cold-blooded murderer. They see a teenager who made the worst decision of his life. I think this is where it begins. When people hear the word murderer, they often imagine that this person planned this. They imagine somebody waking up in the morning with violence already in their heart. That wasn't what Karmelo Anthony did. They imagine somebody hunting another person down, looking for trouble, intending to kill someone. That's not what Karmelo Anthony did. I don't think that's what many Black Americans saw when they looked at Karmelo Anthony. I think they saw a 17-year-old kid caught up in a confrontation that escalated out of control in a matter of minutes. They saw fear, immaturity, panic, bad judgment, and a catastrophic decision that this young man made. Now, that doesn't mean they think he did nothing wrong. A terrible decision can still be criminal. And this is what I believe. the terrible decision led to criminal behavior. A moment of panic can still have deadly consequences. But many people make a distinction between someone who plans to kill and someone who loses control in the middle of a chaotic situation. Karmelo Anthony didn't go there to kill Austin Metcalf. That's what most Black Americans think. And if your starting point is this was a frightened teenager who made the worst mistake of his life, then you naturally begin to ask different questions about what justice should look like. You stop asking, how do we punish a murderer? And you start asking, how do we hold a young person accountable for one irreversible decision? That difference in perspective matters. Number two, a lot of Black people believe his fear was at least plausible. Now, I want to be careful with this one, right? I'm not saying the jury was wrong. I'm not saying his actions were legally justified. I am saying many people believed his fear was at least believable. His fear in that moment was believable. A lot of Black Americans looked at the facts and saw a smaller teenager confronted by someone physically larger during an active emotional encounter. They saw confusion, chaos, adrenaline, and a situation unfolding in real time. And they asked themselves a simple question. What if he really did believe he was in danger? Now, legally, that isn't the end of the analysis, right? The law doesn't simply ask whether you're afraid. The law asks whether deadly force was reasonably necessary to prevent death or serious bodily injury. I have always said in my previous videos that this case will hinge on proportionality. Okay. Did he reasonably believe he was in danger? Did he use reasonable force given his fear or the circumstances? I've always said it will come down to proportionality. Okay. But in the court of public opinion, people often ask a different question. Could this young man have honestly believed he was about to get seriously hurt? For many people, for many Black people, the answer was yes. And again, that doesn't not automatically make him legally innocent, but it helps to explain why many people believe or were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay. Number three, most Black people believe he didn't go there to kill anybody. Most Black people believe he didn't go there to kill anyone. I think this point often gets overlooked. I see a lot of people online. Oh, you just support criminals. Oh, you just believe in people getting hurt and whatnot. If he went there to harm someone, he would have had a better weapon. He had a Swiss Army knife to do damage, to kill someone. That's not a person who goes to a place to kill people or to hurt someone who had premeditation. He didn't have premeditation. Most Black people don't believe he had premeditation. And I'm explaining Black people's thoughts. I'm not explaining white people's thoughts. I'm not explaining anybody's thoughts. I'm saying most Black people believe he did not do this premeditatedly. Okay. This point gets overlooked. Like I said, many people separate intent from outcome. They believe Karmelo Anthony went to a track meet not to commit murder. They don't believe he woke up planning to take Austin Metcalf's life. They believe he got involved in an argument. Emotions took over and one irreversible decision followed that. The outcome is horrific. Austin Metcalf lost his life. His family lost a son. Nothing can change that. But many Black Americans still make a distinction between someone who arrived with murderous intent and someone who made a catastrophic choice in the heat of the moment. And because they make that distinction, they also believe the punishment should reflect that distinction. And 35 years to them is not reflecting that distinction. Number 4, 35 years feels like a punishment that doesn't fit the circumstances. Honestly, I think this may be where the largest amount of agreement exists between Black Americans. I suspect that if you sat down with 100 people who say Karmelo Anthony should have walked, a lot of them would eventually tell you something slightly different. They might say, well, maybe he should have been convicted of something. Okay, I'm on that line. Yes, you're guilty. Yes, you should have punishment. 35 years? I don't know. Maybe it should have been convicted of something. But 35 years for a 17-year-old for something that happened in seconds, that feels excessive, specifically if he didn't go there with murderous intent. That is where the debate shifts away from guilt towards punishment. Because our justice system isn't just supposed to determine whether a crime happened. It's also supposed to decide what punishment is appropriate. Many people believe that a teenager who did not appear to set out to kill anyone should not effectively lose the best decades of his life over one terrible moment. Many Black parents looked at that sentence and imagined their own child standing there. They thought about bad decisions. They thought about immaturity. They thought about how quickly one moment can destroy a future. And they asked themselves whether 35 years leaves enough room for redemption. Number 5, they looked at other self-defense cases and they see a different standard. And this is where the Mr. Child case, Mr. Child case, the one who shot that boy in the back. He shot that boy in the back and he got away with it, got away with murder. He was found not guilty. Remember that case, right? This is where Mr. Child's case becomes impossible to ignore. Because if you really want to understand the reaction to the Karmelo Anthony verdict, you have to understand that many people are not looking at this case in isolation, this Karmelo Anthony's case in isolation. They're stacking it up next to other cases they have watched over the years. The Mr. Child verdict is a perfect example. Perfect. In this case, a store owner confronted a teenager accused of theft. According to the prosecution's theory, the teenager was running away when he was shot from behind. That state argued that the immediate threat had already ended. Yet Mr. Child was acquitted of murder. Now I understand that every case has different facts. I get all that. Different evidence, different witnesses, different jury instructions. And I'm not saying the two cases are identical, but I am saying that many Black Americans look at these two outcomes and ask a very straightforward question. How does one defendant receive the benefit of the doubt about his fear, about proportionality, about all of those things? How does one defendant receive the benefit of the doubt after using deadly force when the alleged threat appears to have ended? The alleged threat appears to have been moving away from you. The alleged threat appears to have been stifled or going away. How does one defendant receive the benefit of the doubt after using deadly force when the alleged threat appears to have ended, while another defendant receives 35 years after claiming he feared immediate harm during an active confrontation? Whether that comparison is legally perfect is not really the fucking point. The point is that people are making it. They're looking at one case and saying the threat was over. He shot somebody in the back when the person was running away and he walked. Then they're looking at Karmelo Anthony and saying the confrontation was still happening at the same time and he got 35 years. Again, you don't have to agree with my analysis. I don't give a fuck. But if your goal is to understand why Black Americans believe Karmelo Anthony should have walked, you cannot ignore the impact of the Mr. Child verdict. For a lot of people, it confirms something they already suspected. It reinforced the belief that the benefit of the doubt is not distributed equally when it comes to Black folk. Number 6, there's a deep lack of trust that the system applies the same standard to everyone. Let me say it again. There's a deep lack of trust from Black folks that the system does not apply the same standard to everyone. And I think this is really the heart of the entire conversation. Trust, or maybe more accurately, the lack of trust. Many Black Americans do not believe that self-defense claims are evaluated with the same generosity in every case. They believe some defendants receive every reasonable inference in their favor, while others have to overcome every possible doubt. Let me back that up because I'm being diplomatic. Let me say it plainly. Many Black Americans do not believe that self-defense claims, when they come from Black people, are evaluated with the same generosity when it comes to other races, other people. They believe, Black Americans believe, that some defendants, Black defendants, mostly they believe that people who are non-Black receive every reasonable inference in their favor, while Black folks have to overcome every possible doubt in order to be set free. Now, whether that belief is objectively correct or not is not what I'm debating today. I'm saying the belief exists. I'm telling you the reasons why Black people are responding the way that they are. And once that belief, I'm saying this is the belief. And once that belief exists, every new verdict gets measured against every old verdict. The recent verdict from Mr. Chow, according to them, getting away with killing a person who was running away, when every reasonable person would have went inside their store and locked their door, Mr. Chow chased down that Black boy and shot him. And every person that wasn't a Black person, mostly people who weren't Black people, looked at that and said, oh yeah, he should die. He should get shot. So people stop asking, did this defendant meet the legal standard? And they start asking, would someone else have received more grace? Would somebody, another race, receive more grace under these same circumstances? And their conclusion is, yes, they would have, because Mr. Chow did. That's why the Mr. Chow verdict matters so much to this conversation. It's not just about it being another case. For many people, it's evidence. Evidence that the same legal principle may not always be applied to Black people the same way. And when people lose faith in the rules, and the rules are not consistent, they stop judging cases one at a time. They start comparing outcomes. And this is what they have done. Number seven. Social media turned a tragedy into a cultural war. I think the internet made this case almost impossible to discuss honestly, right? Because social media doesn't like complexity. They like simple catchphrases, simple viral moments. It doesn't like the gray areas. It just wants heroes and villains, and it wants saints and sinners and monsters. Austin Metcalf couldn't simply be a teenager who got into an argument and may have made a fatal mistake in that moment, because I believe he made his fatal mistake just alongside with Karmelo Anthony made a fatal mistake. To one side, Austin Metcalf had to become completely innocent and beyond criticism. Even though we heard things about Austin Metcalf, well, people have told me that they heard that he was a bully, that he would bully him, that he wasn't really supposed to be there, that he was kicked out of school, he was on suspension, and it was more than one guy that came and tried to hurt Karmelo Anthony or try to intimidate Karmelo Anthony. These are the things that I've heard as I've listened to the people on the internet, okay? So we're not going to turn Austin Metcalf into an innocent human being. Austin Metcalf made a choice when he walked up to a person that had nothing to do with him and tried to bully that person out of a tent. Austin Metcalf made a decision himself. He made a fatal decision, just like this young man made a fatal decision, okay? So to one side, he seems to be so completely innocent, beyond criticism. No, not on HQ's hand, not this channel. They both have criticisms. Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony. There's criticism for both of them. Okay. At the same time, Karmelo Anthony couldn't simply be a frightened teenager who made a terrible, irreversible decision, because all I hear online is, oh, he's a man. He was a man and he made the mistake. He shouldn't have pulled out a knife. He shouldn't have did this, that, and the third. Both of these boys made fatal mistakes. This whole outcome never should have occurred. Okay. Karmelo Anthony should never have been under the tent, I guess. I don't know what that situation was like, whether it was somebody else's tent, whoever tent. Maybe he shouldn't have been under the tent. Maybe he should have just left. Maybe Austin Metcalf should have minded his own business, sat down and not worried about Karmelo Anthony. What if both of these teenagers made fatal mistakes? Both of them. Okay. Depending on which corner of the internet you land in, Karmelo Anthony had to become either a symbol of racial injustice or a cold-blooded killer. Real life doesn't work that way. Real life is messy. Teenagers say stupid shit, do stupid shit. Teenagers panic. Teenagers make terrible decisions. These two teenagers made terrible decisions, and they're paying the price for it. And sometimes one terrible decision changes dozens of lives forever. But once the internet picks teams, the facts become secondary. People stop asking about what happened and they start defending their side. Fuck defending the side. Both of these young men made terrible decisions. Both of them. So what do I think about it? I think I understand every one of these reasons. I understand why many Black Americans don't see Karmelo Anthony as a calculated murderer. I don't see him as a calculated murderer either. He didn't go there to kill Austin Metcalf. He didn't. I believe as a kid, panicked, who made a terrible, fatal mistake. Same thing with Austin Metcalf. Split decision. He decided he wanted to bully Karmelo Anthony, and he made a fatal mistake in doing that. Okay. I understand that Karmelo Anthony, why Black people believe that his fear might have been genuine. I understand why they think he never intended to kill anybody that day. I don't believe the young man went there to kill anybody anyway on that day. I understand why 35 years feels excessive for a 17-year-old who made one catastrophic decision. I believe that. But you made that decision. You got to own it. You got to take accountability for it. You just do. I understand why they compare this case to the child verdict and ask why one defendant appears to receive more grace than the other. And I also understand why there's so much distrust over whether the benefit of the doubt is really handed over equally. Those are not irrational questions. Those are not crazy questions. Those are questions about the consistency. Now, understand these reasons do not mean I have to agree with every conclusion that comes from those. I personally believe every case should stand on its own merits, its own facts. I don't think one verdict should be used to make up for another verdict. I don't think justice works by trying to balance the scales through unrelated cases. In fact, if someone believes that Mr. Child's verdict was wrong, the answer is not to produce another verdict that ignores the law. The answer is to demand that the same legal standard be applied to everybody every single time. So whatever legal standard was applied to Mr. Child should be applied to Karmelo Anthony. The race of the defendant should not change the standard. The race of the victim should not change the standard. I don't give a fuck if Austin Metcalf is white. I give a fuck what race he was. I give a fuck what race Karmelo Anthony was. Okay? Public pressure should not change that standard. And they feel, that's another reason they may feel that public pressure changed that standard. The only thing that should matter is whether the law is being applied consistently across the board. White, Black, Hispanic, Chinese, Asian, blah, 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 blah. But if you ask me why so many Black Americans believe Karmelo Anthony should have walked, I don't think it's because they celebrate violence or they put violence on a pedestal or put their people on a pedestal. That's just a lie because we're not a monolith. Okay. I think it's because they saw a scared teenager instead of a monster. The media is trying to make him out to be a monster. He's not a monster. He's just a teenage kid who fucked up. 2 teenage kids that fucked up. I think they believe, or Black Americans believe, his fear was at least plausible. I think they saw a sentence they considered excessive. I think they looked at Mr. Child's verdict and other controversial self-defense cases and saw a system that, in their view, extends grace unevenly, specifically against Black folk. And I think they're asking a question that goes beyond Karmelo Anthony or Austin Metcalf. They're asking whether justice really looks the same for everybody. Because if one defendant can claim fear after the danger appears to have walked free, Mr. Child, the danger was not there. The danger was running down the street. While another claims fear during an act of confrontation and spends the next 35 years in prison, people are naturally going to compare those outcomes. You don't have to agree with that comparison. I don't care. You don't even have to think it's legally correct. Who gives a fuck? But if we want to understand why so many Black Americans reacted the way they did, these are the reasons. We have to stop pretending the reaction came out of nowhere. Because people think, oh, y'all just like criminals. This ain't nothing new. It applied, the justice applied across the board, blah, blah, blah. No, it didn't. No, it didn't come out of nowhere. I think it came from a genuine belief that the benefit of the doubt, that the benefit of the doubt doesn't ever reach Black folk. That's what I believe. It may be true. It may not be true. I can't tell. Okay. It's embarrassing to hear what these people have to say online. Okay. It's a legitimate debate. All of this is a legitimate debate. Okay. What happened? Why? When? Okay. He wasn't there to kill anybody. He wasn't there to hurt anybody. But yet and still, they feel like he should do 35 years. And this is what I think. Okay. If somebody believes Mr. Child, his verdict was wrong, they should at least want to have the same verdict for Karmelo Anthony. They should want that same verdict if they thought it was right. Okay, we want the law to be consistently applied. Okay, they think the sentence is excessive. They think they looked at Mr. Child's verdict and seen that grace is not extended to Black folk. Okay, and I think they're asking a question that goes beyond Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. They're asking whether justice really looks the same for everybody. Because if one defendant can claim fear and get away with it, then he should also be able to claim fear and get away with it. Okay. But this is the reactions of the Black people. Okay. I think it's a genuine belief. It's a genuine lack of trust for the police. And until people believe that the same legal standard is applied the same way, until Black people believe that, regardless of who is standing at the defense table, these debates are going to keep happening. Okay. Because the question people are really asking isn't just, was Karmelo Anthony guilty? The question they're asking is, if this had been someone else, someone white, would justice have looked the same way? It's just a question. I'm just giving you the answer. I'm just giving you what I feel is what Black folks are feeling. Okay. And I laid out the 6 reasons why. Okay. Why they feel the way that they do. Black folk feel the way that they do. I'm not saying all Black folk. So shut the fuck up about saying, not all Black folk feel like that. No, the bulk of us do. We don't see Karmelo Anthony, not we, but Black people in general. They don't see Karmelo Anthony as a cold-blooded killer. They see a teenager who made the worst decision of his life. They believe his fear was plausible. When he said he was afraid, that's believable. They don't believe he went there to kill Austin Metcalf. He didn't go there to kill Austin Metcalf. He would have had intent. He didn't have intent. My understanding with murder was you had to have some kind of intent, plot, premeditation. He didn't have those. A Swiss Army knife is not a weapon most people think to do anything with anybody with. But if it's the only weapon that you have at hand and you're being attacked or you feel you're going to be attacked, maybe that's the only weapon that you could use. Not thinking a Swiss Army knife was going to kill a person. I don't think he went there to kill anybody. 35 years seems excessive, and it doesn't seem to fit the circumstances. But I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But then I've always said proportionality, all of this is going to come down to that. Apparently, the jury didn't believe that he was in fear of his life. Apparently, the jury didn't believe that he didn't go there to kill anyone. Apparently, that jury didn't believe any of those things. Okay? And they looked at other self-defense classes like Mr. Chow, and they see a different standard. Okay? There's a deep lack of trust for the Black community for police, because it's only very recently that they felt comfortable enough to believe that the police would take their word over anybody. And to this day, we still have a feeling that the police would never take our word over anybody else, specifically anybody that's white. And I'm just giving you an honest opinion about why I think this is the way they feel. Has nothing to do with race. I've heard a lot of stuff on the line. Oh, you're just racist. That's not it. It's not it at all. We just know historically that this young man is not going to be believed because they're trying to make Austin Metcalf be a saint when we knew he wasn't a saint. If you read any of the news clip, you read any of the transcript, you read any of the testimony, you read any of that, he wasn't a saint. So I'm not going to hold him up as a saint. He made a fatal error. He came into the tent and he intended to bully this young man. This young man said he defended himself, but nobody believes that he defended himself. It is what it is. Okay. So those were my reasons. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I have content like this every day, and I will be back this evening with more content, not necessarily about the Karmelo Anthony case, but about the douchebags at the White House. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys coming out early this morning at 7 o'clock. I like to do things early too, so please hit the like button. I'd appreciate it, and share. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you.